Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Sir Spam28 bringing you some more World of Warships closed beta action. This is the first match in the USS Pensacola Tier 7 heavy US cruiser that I've played, hence the name of this video, the Shakedown cruise. This, I repeat, is the very first game I ever played in my brand new shiny Pensacola that I had just purchased previous to this match. Now, I did have some free XP left over, so I did get it fully upgraded. So it's got all of its upgrades, the upgraded hull, the upgraded guns, the upgraded fire control system. So that does give me a slight edge, but still, having never played this ship before, I was curious to see how it would do. Now, I had played matches, obviously, against the ship, and I had heard rumors on other YouTube video comments and on the forums and on the subreddit for World of Warships that people did not like the Pensacola very much. They considered it a serious downgrade from the Cleveland, given that it seemed to have a less HP, less armor, less overall firepower, and less DPS than the Cleveland. So, yeah, on paper, I would consider that a downgrade as well. But the thing you have to remember about the Pensacola is that it have 8-inch guns, not those 6-inchers like the Cleveland. It's got 10 lovely 8-inch guns that are fairly rapid firing, so not too big of a deal. As far as its glass jaw syndrome, I find that you kind of have to play it like any other cruiser, at least US cruisers. Even the Cleveland has a pretty glass jaw when you get right down to it, so stay in the back, stay with the battleships, provide that screening force for lighter ships and aircraft, because even though it doesn't have the AA capabilities of the Cleveland, the Pensacola still has significant amounts of anti-aircraft batteries. And it still, most importantly, has that special cruiser ability to concentrate AA fire, which really can disrupt the enemy torpedo bombers when they're coming in. So as we start the match, I kind of look and go, yep, I'm going to stick with these battleships. And soon enough, we start getting some ships coming into range. So I start taking some long-range shots. Now, the range of these 8-inchers with the upgraded fire control system is 15.7 kilometers. So that actually does give you another advantage over the Cleveland, in that you have about 2 kilometers and change, really, extra room to play with where you can be shooting at it, and it can't be shooting at you. These 8-inchers also have a much flatter trajectory when reaching out and touching things at long range. So you don't have to lead as much, which can lead to more accurate fire. And being 8 inches instead of 6 inches, they obviously have more penetration capabilities, and they do more damage when they do hit. So as I'm taking fire at these cruisers that are coming into range, I focus on this lead cruiser here, which, because of a fail platoon, is actually a Tier 4 Kuma class cruiser. So he's kind of in a world of hurt. He's very outmatched. This is a very much Tier 6 and 7 type game, and he's in a poor Tier 4 over there. So he's not going to have a fun time. But as he turns away and starts getting out of my gun range, I turn my attention to this Cleveland. And you can see just the fire rate of these guns. It's not too bad. It's not too shabby at all. But paying attention to my heading, I notice that, hey, I'm kind of on the vanguard of this fleet, and I'm kind of closing into a range that's not going to be very good for me with these enemy ships as they're coming around that point. So I go ahead and make a U-turn, and you can see that the gun traverse of this ship isn't too bad. Take some shots at that destroyer long range as he disappears, but hey, you get a lucky hit. And now I see this cruiser coming across the headland, so I'm going to go ahead and focus on him. So what you want to be doing, as with any US cruiser, when you're in this kind of screening position with your battleships, is you want to be focusing on the lightest ships that you can and then working your way up the chain. So if you see a destroyer, you should be shooting at the destroyer first. If there's no destroyer, then you should be shooting at the cruiser. And if there's no cruiser to shoot at, then you can go ahead and shoot at the battleship. Because the reason you want to do that is your guns are incrementally less effective as you go up that chain. These 8-inch guns and even the 6-inch guns on the smaller cruiser really rip apart destroyers, and they have a pretty good chance at penetrating light cruisers and heavy cruisers as well. But as for battleships, you're not going to do that much damage unless you really get lucky. So as I turned around, kind of have a slight mishap there. We weren't really paying attention, that battleship and myself, but no big deal. 37 damage done to me, almost no damage done to him, and we're able to clear off each other pretty fast and go on our merry way. So as I'm making this U-turn here, I'm still taking some really long-range shots kind of across this channel at the enemy formation as they steam around. And I've been getting some pretty good hits, and you can see up at the top right there, I've gotten 13 hits in so far, and done some pretty good damage. And there we go, got some more shells falling in there. 1310, 1310, and a big hit for 1828. 3 more hits, I'll take it. And we see this cruiser off in the back, steaming, so put 2 guns on him, and then switch back to this cruiser and put 2 guns on him. And the Pensacola here has kind of a unique layout. It's got the 2 turrets that have 3 barrels and 2 turrets that have 2 barrels. And yeah, so, you know, it's 5 guns in the front, 5 guns in the back, but you just gotta pay attention to kind of, you know, if you're firing 2 or 3. And you really want to be, you know, aiming the 3 really well. So, see this Cleveland. I'm now within the Cleveland's gun range, so I kind of want to take him out as a priority target before he starts shooting at me. So, take some shots at him. Some fell short, some fell long. Most of them fell towards his aft, didn't give him enough lead. But 1 does hit and actually takes out a turret. Now, as that Cleveland goes behind an island, I switch my focus to this Japanese cruiser over here and start putting some shots on him. And these are really, really good shots. That was really well aimed, and we get really good damage there. We get 6 out of the 10 shells that we fired to fall in for damage. So, not too bad. Now, given where my battleships are, I'm kind of breaking from my defensive screen here. I see that there is this New Orleans that has steamed down the slot, as you were. And he's kind of bitten off more than he can chew, and he needs backup. So I'm actually coming over here to back him up. Now, I don't want to go out where he is. That's just suicide. He's going to pay for that mistake. He's going to sink. But I can kind of clear this island and start providing some covering fire while simultaneously starting to make a U-turn and head back up the slot. So I just want to come out, get some quick defensive fire to help that guy out, get some damage done, and then get back towards my battleships and kind of get back into cover and get out of range. So the first thing we see as we come around and start our U-turn is this enemy Pensacola. And now I've kind of got the jump on him, and I'm able to get in, I think, 7 shells before he's able to start firing at me, including 2 Citadel hits from that last battery that I just fired there, which really took a big chunk of his health off. Get 2 more hits there for some other good hits, and then fire my battery of 3, and that is his death. Takes him out as all 3 of those shells hit. And you can kind of see the accuracy of these 8-inch guns at that sort of range, at about 7 to 8 kilometers. Really pretty accurate. Now, I do have the upgrade, the purchasable upgrade, to increase the main battery accuracy, so that may have something to do with it. But the grouping of these guns is just fantastic. This ship really is an effective sniper. Now, unfortunately, the maneuverability of it is not so good, which is why, as we're attempting to make that U-turn there, we unfortunately run aground. And now that Cleveland that we were shooting at before has got me in his sights, which means that I'm about to take a lot of damage. So I start maneuvering and start shooting at him. I've fired 2 salvos so far that have all kind of fallen behind him, so I give him a little more lead and fire off a full salvo there as I clear the headland and start leaving this island. And you can see just the accuracy and the power of these 8-inch guns. We hit him with so many shells, get some good Citadel hits, and take him out right off the bat, just like that. It was a beautiful salvo that we're able to put in that Cleveland and take him down. So, a lot of people, when they get to the Pensacola, complain, hey, this is a Tier 7 ship, and I can't take on Tier 6 Clevelands. But I think a lot of that has to do with they're just closing into way too close of a range, where the rapid-fire 6-inch guns are able just to tear into them. Yes, the Cleveland is able to put out more shells than you per minute, but they're still 6-inch guns, so if you're, you know, around that 7, 8, 9, 10 kilometer mark, those 6-inch guns have a very high arc, they have a long travel time, they're easier to evade than these 8-inch guns, especially from the Pensacola. It seems like it's a sniper, and you're able just to put in a super accurate fire, and because they're 8 inches, able to penetrate that Cleveland with ease. Now, I made my U-turn, but I noticed that these torpedo bombers were coming in over the island. So I actually slowed down and started to turn back towards this battleship because I know that's where they're going. I also popped my defensive AA ability. And you can see, it's not a Cleveland, but we're still able to get the job done and shoot down eventually all 5 of these torpedo bombers, which I really think saved that battleship's life, given that that Congo made absolutely no attempt whatsoever to dodge those torpedoes. Shooting down all of the planes but 2 before they got to launch their torpedoes meant that only 1 torpedo hit him instead of a potential, another 2 or 3, which I think really ended up saving his life. Unfortunately, it's not going to matter that much because he drives right into an island and he's being engaged by Fuso. So he ends up going down, I believe. Maybe not. But I think, preserving those 14-inch guns of that Congo by recognizing that those planes were coming in, slowing down to keep them in our AA arc, and then turning around again to keep them in our AA arc and focusing fire on them while popping that ability. It just goes to show that the Pensacola still can perform that effective anti-air screen like a cruiser should be doing for battleships. So, an effective application of the ship there. Now, as I'm steaming, I'm kind of looking around. I have my guns locked off to the right-hand side because that's where those 2 Fusos are. But they're out of gun range. 15.7 kilometers is the gun range. 15.7 kilometers is also the detectability range for the ship. So if anything is within your firing range, you should be firing at it because they see you anyway. So there's really no such thing as stealth in this ship unless you're playing behind a destroyer smokescreen. So as we get closer, this Fuso comes into range. Unfortunately, for the enemy team, even though I don't think it really would have mattered that much, just given that it's 8-2 right now, this Fuso was AFK. So he eats my shells, he eats some torpedoes from our aircraft carrier, and I put another spread into him. And eventually that flooding, because he's not repairing it obviously, from those torpedoes is going to sink him. But as he goes down after that salvo, I go ahead and switch over to the other Fuso, who has now steamed into my gun range as well. So he blows up, immediately switch over to this Fuso, and start putting some shells into him. It's now 9-2, and looking around, we have definitely broken through the center here. There's 1 Cleveland on the far left flank, over on the 10 line, and then there's just this Fuso over here who's still kind of rear guard guarding their cap. And then way over on the 1 line is their aircraft carrier and destroyer, who are being engaged by 2 battleships. So I don't think they're going to do anything. And this Cleveland is kind of engaged another Cleveland over there on the 9-10 line anyway. So he's also tied up. And so as we get into the base here, I'm fairly comfortable this is a win. So just kind of looking at the stats as we kind of wait for the enemy base capture ticker to go up, while also watching the health bars of this Cleveland on Cleveland duel on the left side of the map, you can see just what we're able to do in this match. I still have most of my health left, still in the green, still have a good 2/3 of the health left. Did take some hits from the Cleveland, did take some hits from the enemy Pensacola, but 55 shell hits, 3 critical module damage, 6 citadel penetrations, 2 ships sunk, and 6 planes shot down, including a whole squadron of 5 torpedo bombers and a dive bomber just as he was flying over me. Not too shabby for the first time out, and I think I'm gonna have a hell of a time in the Pensacola. It's really, in my opinion, at least just from this first battle, just getting a feel for it, as the title of this video, going down on a shakedown cruise and seeing how it performs and what it feels like. It really suits my play style. I like the longer range ability of the guns. I like the punch of the 8-inchers. I love the accuracy of the fire, and you can just see that reflected in the numbers. 321,000 credits, almost 7,000 experience. Now that is running a premium account, and that is doubled for the daily double, first win of the day on the ship, because they are testing that feature now. But looking at the base experience, 2,323 base experience. That's a great game. A lot of members of our team did really good. We had an 1,800, a couple of 1,500s, and a 1,200. And looking at the enemy team, not that good, but almost 24,000 base experience, or 2,400, I'm sorry, base experience is really just a great game. Looking at the numbers of the damage, 61 hits for 75,000 damage with the AP shells. Again, 6 planes shot down, and now just the enemy warships that we actually damaged. We damaged 9 ships on the enemy team. We sunk 2, but we actually hit and damaged 9 ships on the enemy team. So just able to really reach out there and touch the enemy team, and as I like to say, give them the good news. And these 8-inch shells carry a lot of good news. And as you can see on the right with the premium account, 6,968 experience, 3,484 base experience with premium, and then doubled to get that almost 7,000 experience number. So what a hell of a first game in the USS Pensacola. And I'm really looking forward to playing in this ship more. And I'm sure I'll have more videos on it in the future. Especially since one of my favorite ships of World War II is actually a Pensacola class cruiser, the USS Salt Lake City. Old Swayback Maru, as they called her back then. The reason I love that ship so much is pretty simple. I live in Salt Lake City, so it's pretty cool to have a ship as active as she was in World War II named for your city. So I'm looking forward to this ship, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time.